Hello and welcome to Dollars and Cents, the Australia Institute podcast where we're talking about just what the hell is going on in our economy. I'm Elinor Johnston-Leake, the senior content producer here at the Australia Institute, and as always, I'm talking to our chief economist, Greg Jericho. Hello, Greg.
Hi, Elinor.
How are we doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. The sun is shining, the grass is riz. We wonder where the horses is. It's not summer, it's spring, but fake spring in Canberra, all good.
Yeah. But it's also a bit of a special day today, isn't it, Greg?
It is. It's our 100th episode. Sirens and horns and applause.
Fireworks. All of that.
Yeah, 100th episode. Thank you, everyone, for listening for those 100 episodes. For those of you who've been here since episode 1, for those of you who have joined along the way, really appreciate it. And it's, amazing. 100 episodes.
Yeah.
We did it.
I mean, I wasn't there for all of those, but, you know.
No, you weren't.
No.
Yeah, actually, no. So you don't get to celebrate. You don't get to no.
Okay. Well, thanks.
You've come over, though, and taken hold of the reins and
look where we are now.
Number 100. Let's do it.
So,
best ever.
Number 100. The RBA met this week.
We don't talk about the RBA enough, I think.
Well, today we're going to talk about the RBA.
Right.
They met this week and they did not cut rates as everyone kind of thought they would not. They just left them on hold. And as always, there was something in what Michelle Bullock was saying to the press afterward that really gives us a bit of insight into what the RBA is sort of thinking at the moment.
Did you consider cutting interest rates at all at today's meeting?
No, we didn't consider cutting. We basically just talked about holding and the reasons to hold and then discussed strategy moving out.
It wasn't even on the table. And then she also said that they were concerned about employment, but at the moment they're a little more concerned about making sure they get inflation sustainably back in the band. Greg, is this ever not the case? Are they ever concerned more about employment?
Yeah, she said, at the moment, it's like, at the moment, you've always been more concerned about inflation than unemployment. Before the meeting, the market was predicting about a 7% chance of a rate cut. Turns out that was even wildly overestimating because in her press conference after the announcement, Michelle Bullock was asked, did they consider cutting it? And she said, no, we're never going to cut it. It's like, that would have been a fun meeting. Yeah. We got in, we said, anyone want to cut them? And everyone said, nope. And like, okay, well, we've got 2 days here. What are we going to do? It turns out, because as listeners know, in the past month since the last meeting of the Reserve Bank, two main things that happened. We had a jump in unemployment, which went from 4.3 to 4.5%, which was actually above what the Reserve Bank was suggesting that unemployment would get to. So certainly a surprise there. And there was a bigger than expected increase in inflation where we saw it get to 3.2%. And it was pretty clear from Michelle Bullock's press conference that the inflation one was the one that they were concerned about. They weren't really concerned about the unemployment rate one at all.
Even though the trimmed mean inflation, if I remember correctly, was not, it didn't really jump much.
Look, a little bit, but still within, right, it's basically at 3%, 2.9%, depending on which measure you use. So, it's still in there. The interesting thing about this week is they didn't just announce the decision, they also released their latest statement on monetary policy, which is their 3-monthly document where they say this is how the economy's going and this is what we think is going to happen. And so it has all their estimates of economic growth, unemployment, inflation, everything like that for the next basically 2.5 years. And they revised up their predictions for inflation for next year. They didn't really... They revised up a little bit their predictions for unemployment, but not much. They basically say it's going to go to 4.4%, which is interesting given it's at 4.5%. And they're basically saying it's going to stay at 4.4% for the next 2.5 years, which is great. Be nice.
Optimistic.
Yeah, optimistic. So it's a case of they're really taking the line that, oh, no, that jump in unemployment, that was a bit of a blip and it's all good. All of the indicators on job vacancies and things like that suggest it's not going to keep going up, even though it has kept going up pretty much for the last 18 months. Whereas inflation, they're like, oh, yeah, that will go up a bit for the next year and then it will come down. So, yeah, as it's just more proof that the Reserve Bank really, really gets spooked by anything to do with inflation and doesn't at all when it comes to unemployment.
This week as well, the ABS released the September quarter household spending data. So this covers around 60% of household consumption, which makes over just half of the economy. So a significant portion of what's going on in the economy. How's household spending going?
Yeah, this is interesting because the Reserve Bank, in its statement and in what Michelle Bullock had said, it had suggested that, the most recent data suggests that because in sort of May, June, there was a bit of an increase in household spending. And they were saying, most recent data suggests this is ongoing and it wasn't a blip. And I'm like, what? Did you look at the figures? Because the figures that came out this week on Monday, so as the Reserve Bank were meeting, showed, as you say, the quarterly figures for household spending. And why this is important is because while the Bureau Stats does monthly household spending figures, they're just in current dollar terms. So it doesn't take into account inflation. So if prices went up and we spent more, is it because we're buying more stuff or we just had to pay more? But they do quarterly figures which should take into account inflation. And basically they align up with the September quarter GDP figures, which are the next things to come out. And yeah, there was a drop in, a slowing in the amount of spending that we did. I mean, we did buy a bit more stuff, but not as fast as we did in March and June, which one economist who works for AMP suggested this kind of shows that actually the June figures were us all chasing end-of-year financial sales. Wasn't really a case of we were out there buying, especially when you look at there was actually a drop in spending on recreation culture sort of goods and services. So sort of fun things.
The things you spend when you feel like you have some money to spend.
Yeah, and also there was a drop in spending on restaurants and takeaway and dining out. So suggests people cutting back. And what there was a big jump in was healthcare spending, which is not something that suggests, we're responding to demand and supply. That's more just,
you spend it when you need to spend it.
You spend it when you need to spend it. And also there was a jump in food spending as well. So the big jump in spending was on necessities, not those things that you do when you're particularly feeling flush with cash. So it was kind of an odd sort of thing for the Reserve Bank to be pointing to. And also it led to Michelle Bullock and the Reserve Bank continually saying, there's all this excess demand, that there's too much spending. And her big sort of evidence for this that she gave to the media was like, if you're trying to get a tradie to do something, it's really hard. They're really busy and we can't get enough tradies, and that shows that there's more demand than there is a supply. I'm like, really?
What?
That's your big thing? And I sort of was like, okay, that's fine. Whereas, I looked at the data and it's like, yeah, okay, but we're not spending all that much. And what I did was sort of go back and look at all this data. It goes back to 2014, this quarterly spending data. And so you can kind of look at, okay, how are we spending from, say, 2014 to up to 2019, sort of before
everything
went to hell. And a good reminder, back then it wasn't like we were a booming economy. Actually, it was pretty weak economy, and we actually were historically spending not much. But I thought, okay, well, there's at least a good baseline we can take from. Let's extend that forward. And if you extend it forward, we clearly dropped during the lockdowns because we couldn't go out and spending. We then surged back as everything opened up, but we still didn't get back to where we were, or the level sort of the trend level of spending that you would have expected back in 2019 for us to where we'd be.
Had the pandemic not happened.
So it's not like we're massively overspending historically, and even our growth currently is not that great either. So it's this case of, the Reserve Bank keeps talking about excess demand, too much demand, and we need to slow things down. I'm like, the economy still is pretty slow.
If people are spending less on, fun things and more on health and food, it's not really a sign that, keeping interest rates on hold is going to help.
Yeah, and the Reserve Bank's estimates that they had in the Statement of Monetary Policy for GDP growth were basically it won't go above 2%. 2% is crap. Historically, we should be aiming for about anywhere between 2.7 and 3% is where we should be aiming to and historically that's where we've needed growth to be to keep unemployment from rising.
Yeah.
So the Reserve Bank is basically saying, don't worry, growth is going to be below that, but unemployment's not going to rise in that time, which I think, that's optimistic.
Yeah.
And also at the same time, their figures for inflation and wage growth, suggest that actually real wages for next year are going to go down. And, they'll recover a bit in 2027. But again, it's a case, if real wages are falling and if you look at the overall figures and going back, they're saying by December 2027, your wage will be able to buy, on average, about the same amount of stuff it could back in December 2011.
That's 2 years out. How accurate can a prediction be?
Well, the problem is at the moment we're about where you could buy stuff in 2010. It's a case of the recovery is slow.
Yeah.
This is the thing. Everything that they are estimating about to happen is we are a pretty slow growing economy, a weak economy, and yet all the talks about, there's too much demand. There's too much, we got to tap things down. And I'm like, do we? It's this continual fear of inflation, which, remember, still at 3.2%, they aim for 2 to 3%. Really? We're freaking out about this, especially when we know that there's all this weirdness going on with electricity rebates coming off and all that. And yet we've got unemployment rising slowly, but rising. How about worrying about that as well?
One of the other things that you wrote in your column this week in The Guardian about household spending data is that tobacco usage is going down. People are buying tobacco a lot less. What's going on there?
Yeah.
Is it just the rise of vaping?
I guess
no, not so much anymore.
No, and also we know vaping, it's pretty hard, but from what I can gather, vaping is actually counted amongst tobacco sales. Yep. What we've seen, and this is a really interesting thing, is that these figures showed that in the September quarter, Australians bought 6% less alcohol and tobacco than they did in the June quarter, which is really? We bought 6% less?
That's a significant drop.
And if you look over the past 4 years, there's been a 40% drop in smoking. Now, the problem here, and this is something the ABS actually acknowledges, and they have a bit of a note on this, they point out, just remember, we only count legal sales of tobacco.
Yeah.
The volume is so big and the cost is so low that criminal syndicates will flood the border.
The stranglehold that some criminal gangs here in Australia have got over the market to bankroll their other criminal activities.
Smoking rates in Australia have been in a steady decline for decades, but doctors say they're seeing a clear change in direction.
They're not out there counting illegal sales. They're not counting black market. They're not counting sales of cigarettes that are in all these shops that actually are not paying government excise.
Yep.
So what the ABS is pointing out is that actually this makes the overall figures a bit unreliable and actually kind of recommends that when you do the total spending figures, maybe exclude the tobacco figures because they sort of drag everything down, make it look like spending. And I should say when I was talking about spending figures low, I did that. I excluded the tobacco sales because, it's kind of
iffy. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a massive drag on the overall spending because even before this, we're talking maybe 10% of Australians smoke, which is significantly down on where it used to be. In the 80s, it was about 35% of us smoked. In 2000, it was down to 22%. By 2010, it was down to 18%. and since then it's dropped to 10%. And
it's a good thing.
yeah, it's a great thing. The problem though is one of the big reasons of why we've seen this drop in smoking is also why we're seeing this massive drop in legal smoking now. And that's all to do with the huge increases in tobacco excise that we've seen over the last 20 years.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I don't smoke, but hearing from, my friends who do, just the price that people pay for a pack of cigarettes is absolutely insane.
Yeah, we're talking $45-$50 a pack.
Yeah.
And that's
which
a
for
pack
a regular
of 20,
smoker.
25 cigarettes, not even the big 50 cigarettes.
Yeah.
So the excise on cigarettes is done on a per stick basis, so like each cigarette.
Yeah.
That's how they do it. So back in 2000, the excise was 19 cents.
Per cigarette.
Per cigarette.
Yeah.
Now it's $1.40.
Oh, fuck.
So a little bit of a jump.
A little bit, yeah.
You might think, okay, inflation, all that. But that 19 cents in today's dollars is about 40 cents. So in real terms, it's gone from 40 cents to $1.40. So about a 250% increase.
Oh, my God. Yeah, this is why I don't smoke, among other reasons.
Among other. And it basically means that pretty much about half of the cost of a pack of cigarettes is now excise.
And you wrote a pretty interesting piece for the Point Live blog this week where you had this graph that showed the amount raised by the tobacco excise over the years, sort of started in the 1960s and was sort of going steadily upwards. And then in the last 5 years, it just drops. Yeah. Which is interesting.
Yeah. And again, it's the case of you think, okay, we're increasing the excise. And it really happened under Kevin Rudd. Kevin Rudd in 2010 did a 25% increase in excise because prior to that it just went up in line with inflation. Every year inflation went up, it increased the excise by that amount. Then also he instituted a series of increases over, I think it was the next 8 years from 2013 onwards, of 12.5% increases, as well as instead of increasing in line with inflation, they were going to increase it in line with average weekly earnings. Now, average weekly earnings generally go up more than inflation. So it was getting more and more expensive, which, look, good thing. But what happened around 2020 is we started seeing massive declines in the amount of smoking, spending on smoking, and also a drop in the amount of money being raised by tobacco excise. Yeah. Now, again, you might think, oh, great, there's been a huge drop in people smoking and that's
why.
That's why. But no, unfortunately not. What happened around that time, and very much, yes, there was a pandemic involved and everything, but what occurred was almost a tipping point where people were like, this is so expensive now. I'm addicted. I'm not going to give up because, to be honest, if you were going to keep smoking at $40 a pack, you were probably going to keep smoking at $45 a pack. It's a bit of a difference going from 20 to 25 and 40 to 45. It's sort of the marginal. It's
only the most addicted.
Yeah, pretty much. You're at this point where you're if the price has not had an impact by now, it's probably not. So we just really, but what also happened was this tipping point where people are like, oh, I've heard that there are cheaper cigarettes available.
Just under the table.
Under the table stuff.
Under the counter.
It became a lot more common. Illegal smoking, it used to be called chop chop, which was basically tobacco that you could use to roll your own because a basic chop chop, it came straight off the farm almost, That was something
fresh.
I knew about, back in 30 years ago, 20 years ago in Cairns, especially when I was living there, because up on the Atherton tableland, tobacco was grown. So chop chop was pretty freely available. But, it was kind of you had to know someone who knew someone who knew a farmer who'd do it. Or there were various, you'd hear some guy, oh, yeah, I smoke these Indonesian cigarettes and it's
like, them. Where did you get those from?
It wasn't really known. And it got to the point, though, now where you don't need to know someone. It was just.
You just go into a tobacconist and you go, oh, what have you got?
And to the point where I've seen reports where they're even sort of kind of advertised that they're on special this week, the illegal cigarettes. And so what the government has had to do is put into the budget funding for the police to go raid these shops, not so much because of the crime, but because they're losing out around $3.5-4 billion, maybe a bit more, $5 billion in revenue each year.
Is there has to be some kind of economics term for this where like a deterrent tax becomes so high that it sort of acts against its own aims?
It's a little bit like the thing that was really big in vogue in the 1980s with Ronald Reagan called the Laffer curve, which was this line that if you raise the tax so much, it gets to a point where people will stop working. This was with income tax. If you raise it too much, people stop working, and actually gets to a point where the amount of tax starts going down even though you've raised the income tax. Now, unfortunately for Ronald Reagan and everyone else who thought this was a thing, it never really was a thing. But Australia has made it a thing kind of by just continually raising the tax so much. But unfortunately, it's not big. It would have been great if this drop was due to people quitting smoking.
Yeah.
But it's not so much. It's due to people going elsewhere. And this is a real dilemma because what this excise increase has actually created, one, it created this black market, made it attractive, and it's actually created a change in people's habits. They're a culture of the thing. It went from being as something, I wouldn't do that. That sounds a bit dodgy, to retirees are doing it.
I wonder as well, like if people who previously weren't smoking because cigarettes were so expensive. Now that there are these illegal, more cheap cigarettes, maybe some people might have even taken up smoking again.
I don't know about that because it's not like they're still super cheap. It's not like they're $5 a packet.
Not like they that, were.
But it's a case of when you've changed people's habits, even if you say, okay, we've clearly gone too far with the excise, is cutting the excise going to solve it? Or is it going to just mean that the illegal tobaccos will be like, oh, we've got a price war here. We've got a lot more room to still cut.
Yeah.
And, is that going to solve it now? So this is why the government, and the problem is it's not like this is a non-criminal activity. These cigarettes are being gotten not by, let's say, the most savoury of groups, and, it's not like you're getting from your normal wholesaler.
Yeah.
They have to be brought in illegally, essentially. And this can lead to violence and things with retailers if they're not buying, if they don't keep buying them from their person and things like that. So it's not like, this is a victimless crime, so to speak. It certainly can lead to violence and things that we certainly would not wish for. But the problem is the government kind of created it with their own tax system. It's hard to undo now. You can't really lower the excise. Maybe you should, but I don't know if that's going to solve anything.
You can't really put it back in the bottle now because the illegal market there exists.
Because the market's there. People are going to go, oh yeah, you've cut it, but it's still cheaper to go to my convenience store or wherever and get it. And get all this stuff. And it's like, okay, so how do you do this? And the government is like, well, the way we do it is try and stamp it out. Now, that's a problem because it starts going, are we kind of in prohibition territory here? And this is the thing. The price of cigarettes was so high that it kind of was effective prohibition. People could literally not afford it. And if you can't afford something, it's almost the same as not being able to buy it. Like the sale is not an option.
Yeah.
So you're going to go to a speakeasy or your local tobacconist who's got something on the floor. And it's a real problem because it means police shouldn't be wasting their time, so to speak, trying to shut down illegal tobacconists. It's something they didn't have to worry about 5-10 years ago. Now it's a major thing, and it's like, well, that's not a good outcome, but unfortunately that's where we've got ourselves. So, it just shows that taxation can't solve everything, and you need to also be a bit wary of unintended consequences. And I think, unfortunately, we've got one here.
And Greg, we have an update on something we talked about last week.
The consumer watchdog has launched court proceedings against Microsoft for allegedly misleading approximately 2.7 million Australians.
The ACCC alleges the company told Auto Renew subscribers they had to accept the inclusion of the new AI assistant and pay a higher price or cancel their plan.
What the ACCC says that Microsoft left out deliberately was a third option, to continue without the AI-assisted co-pilot at a lower price.
Millions of Australian consumers were deprived of the opportunity to make an informed choice.
The ACCC were going after Microsoft for basically tricking people into paying for their terrible...
Tricking me.
Including you, Greg, tricking people into paying
me, the gullible
extra
rube.
for their terrible AI assistant co-pilot. We have an update. What's happening?
Yes, we said last week that, there were significant fines. We're talking 50 million or what was it, 30% of annual revenue or something if they could determine, or, it was big fines, and we were suggesting maybe Microsoft might wish to negotiate a deal here, and it seems that they have. They have pledged to refund to the 2.7 million Australians who have been affected by this.
Swindled.
Have been swindled. So
that includes
they've pledged to do that, and I think clearly this is part of a please ACCC.
Please don't fine us 30% of our annual revenue.
Don't destroy us. So good win. Well done, ACCC. And again, well done all those people complaining on Reddit.
Yes, thank you, Reddit. You did it.
All right, Elinor, I think we've got to leave it there.
Yeah, I think so.
And in some sort of sad but not sad news for everybody, we're actually going to be going on a bit of a break for the next month or so because Elinor has got heaps of work to do. I don't. I just lay about the office, but Elinor actually does work.
I do.
But
Yes.
what we're going to be doing is running. There still will be a weekly dollars and cents. It's going to be highlights from the Revenue Summit that was held last week, which was a massive success. It really was fantastic, and the people who were there, thank you very much for turning up. If you are our listeners, because it was just incredible, and well done also to the organisers here at the Australian Studio who did it all. Some fantastic panels, fantastic speeches. We're going to be running highlights of that, so you will be getting still dollars and cents. You just won't be hearing from Elinor and I, but I'm pretty sure we will be able to get back, and we'll certainly be back in December when the GDP figures come out, because we know we've got to do a GDP figure. If we didn't do a GDP figure, oh my God, there'd be riots in the streets. Where's our dollars and cents GDP figure episode? So we will be away for a little bit, but certainly there's still going to be some great content coming, and we'll make sure if anything major happens that you need to know about, we will be back. But other than that, thank you for listening, and thank you again for being here for 100 episodes. This episode of Dollars and Cents was recorded on Thursday, the 6th of November. It's the 5th of November that's Guy Fawkes Day.
Yes.
Yeah.
Missed it.
Yeah. My daughter over in England is doing it tonight. It was going to be a terrible shift at the pub, apparently, because it was going to be really ugly. If you want to find all the graphs and all the info about the Reserve Bank and what's going on with spending and everything, have a look at my column on the Guardian Australia site. For more information, including my commentary about smoking, go have a look at thepoint.com.au. There is so much content. My God, it's just full of content. Also, the live blog, probably by the time you're listening, unfortunately, the live blog will be closed because it's only going while Parliament is on. But when Parliament is back, and there's only one more week of Parliament, it will be back. It is just amazing. We are pumping out stuff there. Amy Ramakis is all over it, and we're helping her as much as we can with things during the day about what you need to know about what needs to be known. Is that a thing? It is now.
I suppose so, yeah.
As always, our music is by Blue Dot Sessions. Everyone, have a great week, and we will see you when we see you. But certainly, please keep listening. Some great stuff from the Revenue Summit if you weren't able to be there.
Yeah.
See you all. Bye.
See ya.